What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, ask that question, take that journey? What is it that says you've done well, asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness and holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, connection, and it's the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this space and our hearts. So let us nurture our connections and aspire to grow in right relationship as we join in worship together this morning once again. These words from Monica Jacob Tennyson welcome all who've gathered this morning for our Sunday service. Welcome to those of you here in the building at Essex Church, to all joining us from far and wide via Zoom or indeed tuning in via YouTube at a later date. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name's Jane Blackall and I am Minister with Kensington Unitarians. This morning we'll be exploring the theme of right relation. And later in the service we'll hear some personal reflections on this topic from our own Jasmine Cooray, who will ask, what does it mean to be in right relation? Is it as simple as do right by others, love thy neighbour, do unto others as you would have done to you? This is not an easy question. And as our own Sarah Tinker has written, there's no static, happy ever after state of right relationship to arrive at where we can all just relax. Like balancing on a bicycle, in our relatedness we will be forever in movement. Readjustments both subtle and large will be required for us forever. Love needs to be invited in again and again and again. But before we go any further, let's do what we always do. Let's take a moment to pause, take a breath, settle ourselves down, lay aside any preoccupations we might have come in carrying. And I'm going to light our chalice flame. It's something we do each time we gather, and it connects us with Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists the world over, and reminds us of the proudly progressive religious tradition of which this gathering is part. We gather this morning as one community, a community united by common ideals of love, justice, diversity, freedom, mutual care and equity. Look around. Look at the faces of those around you in the building and on the screen. Each face represents an individual, irreplaceable, every one of us with our own story, our own needs and strengths and faults. And we light our chalice today honouring our common connection and also the uniqueness that lives within every single one of us. Time to sing. Our first hymn today is number 196 in your purple books. We sing the faith. If you're on Zoom, the words will be up on screen. Stand or sit as you prefer, but sing up as best you can. We sing the faith. So let's take all of those joys and concerns, both spoken and unspoken, into an extended time of prayer now. This is based on some words by Lynn Cox. You might want to adjust your position to get more comfortable. You might want to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Perhaps there's a posture that helps you to feel more centered and prayerful. Whatever helps you to get into the right state of body and mind, to be present to yourself, to each other, and to that which lies within us and beyond us. Spirit of life, God of all love, in whom we live and move and have our being. We turn our full attention to you, the light within and without, as we tune into the depths of this life and the greater wisdom to which and through which we are all intimately connected. Be with us now as we allow ourselves to drop into the silence and the stillness at the very center of our being. Spirit of life, God of all love, ancestor of the very stars and sun, you who embrace the vastness of space and us along with it, be with us this morning. Hold us in our daily trials, our worry, our weariness, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal as we reflect on the changing seasons of our lives. You whose arms open with the spinning galaxies, help us to make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, to our neighbours, all the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach out to others in compassion. Turn us toward one another in mercy, right relationship, reconciliation. You who have seen the rising and setting of suns, of seasons, of civilizations, remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and from our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and to repair them whenever possible. Help us understand our interdependence, our relatedness with all the other spinning lives around us, and lead us to treat those relationships with the greatest care. In this space, filled with souls who shine like stars, this space filled with the soft sparkle of love and care, let us give thanks for this moment that we have to be together. May our senses be open to the beauty of this day, this season, this precious world, the beauty that endures and which may still lift our hearts if only we are able to notice it and to give it our attention. And in a few moments of shared silence and stillness now, let us speak inwardly some of those deepest prayers of our own hearts, the joys and the sorrows we came in carrying in our own lives or in the life of the wider world. Let us lift up whatever is on our heart this day, give thanks for the blessings we've been given, and ask for whatever it is that we most need. Spirit of life, God of all love. As this time of prayer draws to a close, we offer up our joys and our concerns, our hopes and our fears, our beauty and our brokenness. And we call on you for insight, healing, and renewal. As we look forward now to the coming week, help us to live well each day and be our best selves, using our unique gifts in the service of love, justice, and peace. Amen.
Right Relationship and Sturdy Intimacy by Sarah Tinker. In 2022, Hucklow Summer School offered a series of talks on right relationship, and our own Sarah and Jane gave one of those talks, and the following is an extended excerpt. Some of us humans put a lot of effort into discerning how we should best behave in relationship with others. Just take a look at those bookshop shelves filled with self-improvement titles. I suspect quite a few of us will come away from time spent with others and chewed anxiously over what we or they said or did, or how we could have handled things better. Not surprising then that human groups and societies create laws, rules, and guidelines to try and help us establish right relationship. Various cultures and religions have developed versions of what became known as the Golden Rule. Do unto others as they would do unto you. As a religious education teacher back in the day, a happy lesson could be spent exploring the many versions of this rule and designing a poster illustrating all the ways we could treat people nicely. But there was usually at least one thoughtful teenager who would query whether everyone on this planet would actually want to be treated as we want to be treated. Aren't we all different? And of course we are. The so-called platinum rule, platinum being considerably more valuable than gold, has been variously attributed and suggests that we treat others as they would wish to be treated. It's certainly an improvement because it elicits an empathic response to the other person. It requires us to be interested in them rather than leaping to assumptions about how they would like to be treated based on our own preferences. We need to discover, through dialogue, what the other person wants and needs. But that has problems too. Some people would want to be treated in ways that aren't in their best interest or the wider grouping's interests. People's yearnings have to be balanced against the wants and the needs of others. I can't imagine ever claiming that I was in right relationship with anybody. I think the best I'd ever say is that I and others are fumbling around trying to communicate effectively with each other, trying our best to understand each other, doing what we can to express what's inside us, how we're thinking and feeling, what our hopes and dreams currently are, alongside our fears and anxieties. Working on our communication skills has to be the key in which to build right relationship. And what might that look like? Probably different for each of us. But for me, I have to overcome blocks of niceness, anxieties about upsetting someone, a fear of the other and what I might hear. I have to carve out time to actually be with the other person because communication takes time, far longer than I'm often ready to give it. Building right relationship requires me to lean in towards another person rather than backing away when there's a difficult situation. Aren't most of us quick to back off when things get difficult, heated, awkward, or embarrassing? Our own Michaela von Britzker has written of the need for sturdy intimacy as a way to overcome the shallow, superficial niceness of our culture. And along with that sturdy intimacy, we have to develop our skills of curiosity, of gentle questioning, of expressing our interest in another person. We have to be willing to express our confusion and to seek clarification. We have to rein back our assumptions and any illusions that we can read another person's mind. When we develop such skills, we help the other person self-disclose. We encourage them to tell us something of themselves, to express their vulnerability. This ability to tell others something intimate about ourselves is one of the first planks of a bridge we hope to build between ourselves and another. It says, I'm here. I'm vulnerable like you. I'm interested in you. Tell me more.
Thanks, Sonya. She's good, that Sarah Tinker, isn't she? We're going to sing again now. Our second hymn today is number 181 in your purple books, Wake Now My Senses. If you read music, don't. We're singing it to a different tune, but it's one you'll probably know. We're singing it to the tune slaying. So number 181, Wake Now My Senses. As Sonya said, a few years ago in 2022, the theme of Hucklow Summer School, our annual week-long gathering for Unitarian religious education, was on right relationship. And this little book, Right Relationship in the Real World, came out a year or so later. It collected all the talks together, and we've still got a few spare copies knocking around. If you didn't get one at the time and you'd like one, have a word with me after the service. For my little contribution to this morning's ponderings, I wanted to revisit that title, Right Relationship in the Real World. Right relationship is a subject we keep returning to. It's sort of implicitly woven into the fabric of pretty much everything we ever talk about here. But my particular focus today is what right relationship might look for us, real human beings with all our various foibles and complications. Human relationships are messy. We've all got a history and an inheritance, a whole lot of baggage that we carry along with us that influences our wants and our needs and our behaviours in ways that are often unpredictable. There are lots of ways in which relationship can go wrong. Like Sarah said, we might use the golden rule, or even better, the platinum rule, as a basic rule of thumb to guide our day-to-day conduct if we aspire to right relationship. Do unto others as they would want to be done to, that sort of thing. But discerning what the people in our lives would actually want to happen in any given situation is not a trivial task, and that's even before we think about tackling those thorny issues that Sarah said, of weighing up the other person's needs and wishes against our own, or starting to make judgments about what's in their best interest or in the interests of the greater good. I don't know if you've noticed, but human beings are really peculiar, including me and most likely you. We've all got different preferences, different comfort zones. An experience that one of us takes in our stride, even relishes, might be sensitive or stressful or even triggering for another. We're all constantly navigating this boundary between safety and challenge, venturing out beyond our growing edge to expand our horizons, then scurrying back in again. At least I think most of us are doing that if we're aspiring to flourish, to really live our lives to the full. We might not be fully aware of our own stuff. Even if we've done a lot of work on ourselves, a lot of introspection, we might struggle to explain ourselves to others, to articulate what's going on for us internally. And as Sarah said, crucially, we cannot read each other's minds. All of these are, to say the least, complicating factors when it comes to human relating. Whether we mean to or not, we find ourselves forever stepping on each other's toes, even when we're trying our very best to be kind and loving to each other. But whether it's in the context of our personal, intimate connections or in the context of being part of a larger community, our fumbling attempts to live in right relationship are, for most of us, the primary way in which we play our part in this grand project of trying to build a better world. So if we're serious about this business of right relationship, how might we cultivate the conditions for creating and sustaining it? Or at least inching towards it, as it's not really a destination we can expect to conclusively arrive at. The job is never going to be done. I think one key practice here is showing up for each other when the going gets tough. Though I'm going to put one very, very big asterisk in here before I go any further to say none of what I'm about to say applies if you're in a situation where abuse is going on, where you or anybody else is at risk of serious harm. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the everyday ouches of most relationships. Disagreements, misunderstandings, carelessly poking each other's tender spots. In these ordinary but difficult moments of right relating, the key practice is showing up, staying in the room or staying in the conversation, and being authentically present to the other, without playing games, without going around the houses, as uncomfortable as that might be. Direct and honest communication is a vital part of this, as Sarah said, and that is a huge topic in itself, one we'll probably return to another day. Right relationship requires us to reach out to each other once and again, even when it feels hard, to initiate the awkward conversations. What just happened? How did we get to this ouchy place? What might we do now to put things right or do things differently? And it can be such a delicate business. Such a balancing act, especially in situations where we're feeling hurt and there are a lot of big emotions or reactions flying around. We might even find ourselves in fight or flight mode, or freeze or fawn or flop. Our response to something going awry might be a trauma response in the first instance and not something we have much conscious control over. But what comes next? If we can work through the initial reaction, if we can soothe ourselves, perhaps different possibilities might emerge. Instead of blowing up the relationship irreparably or running away or smoothing things over and pretending nothing ever happened, we can choose to be present and real. Embrace the messiness of being human and let it take us deeper. Look for the learning about self, about other, the learning that might come out of the encounter, and possibly even treat it as an invitation to stretch a little at our growing edges. One of my favourite chapters in this book is by my colleague and all-round excellent human being, Cody Coyne, who's minister at Cross Street Chapel in Manchester. His chapter is titled Repair as a Sacred Task. And I'm just going to share a few paragraphs from Cody to close my little reflection. He says this: how do we create right relationship when we are wounded by others and when we ourselves cause pain? Right relationship seeks to grant people the fullness of their being in connection with others. And when this fullness is not honoured or the connection is strained, we need to repair the relationship. It's a process that includes acceptance of error and humanness, vulnerability and trust, and corrective action. For a relationship to be vibrant, it has to be responsive, living, shifting, growing as the participants grow. And when done well, repair not only restores right relationship, but actually strengthens it. Overstepping boundaries at times, but with the expectancy that this will happen, and with the willingness to grow and change, that helps to foster trust. And with a greater sense of trust, we can engage in our relationships more authentically, more fully, knowing that our mistakes will not sever the bonds that we've formed. Acknowledgement, apology, and corrective action are necessary for the preservation of relationship, for right relationship necessarily involves error and repair, understanding the boundaries of our own being and wellness, and respecting the boundaries set by others. Repair is not easy. It's often a messy process, and it can take a long time. It may require compromise, listening, and forgiveness, all skills that rarely receive headline space in today's world. But to maintain right relationship, to exist in community with others whilst maintaining our full humanity, is a divine blessing worthy of such work. Words from Cody Coyne. So I'm going to hand over to Jasmine now for our meditation, which continues our exploration of this messy and human business of right relation.
We are moving into a time of meditation now. So to take us into stillness, I'm going to share a poem, another one by Rosemary Watola Troma, titled Dear Failure. It speaks to the oh-so-human experience of our trying and failing to do the right thing in relationship, and the invitation to hang on in there and try again. Following the poem, we will hold a few minutes of shared silence, which will end with the sound of a bell. Then we'll hear music for meditation from Abby and Andrew. So let's do what we need to do to get comfortable. Adjust your position, put your feet flat on the floor to ground yourself if that helps. Close your eyes. As ever, these words and music are just an offering. Feel free to use the time to meditate in your own way. Dear Failure, it is easy to meet you in meditation. Today, when I failed to focus on my breath, I kept breathing anyway. Easy to meet you in the garden where I planted the green beans too late and harvestless, bought some at the store. Harder to meet you when I fear I am failing as a wife because I missed my anniversary to stay bedside with my mother. Harder to meet you when I am afraid I am failing as a daughter when I leave my mother's bed to go to my own daughter. I so want to get it right, this showing up for people I love. I so want to get it right, this longing to be enough. Oh, failure, I have not wanted to learn your lessons, have wanted to believe I could fix, could be all. And you, great teacher, have humbled me again and again, helping me see how much I care. There's more than getting it right at stake. You help me debunk perfection, offering yourself as a friend. Each time I fall, you reach out to take my hand, saying, "Fail on, sweetheart. Wouldn't you like to try again with your loving. What does it mean to be in right relation? Is it as simple as do right by others, love thy neighbor, do unto others as would have done to you? The idea of being in right relation can be seen to underpin what many faiths aim to instill: an intention to act thoughtfully, fairly, and honestly, to be effortful and generous where one can, to treat one another well, to avoid causing harm where possible, to acknowledge that we are in relationship at all, that how we move through our lives affects others. To be in right relation with the world around us might mean trying to waste less, give to others if we have extra, make ethical consumer choices. For some, it might mean saying grace, writing thank you notes, doing the thing you said you were going to do, fighting for justice, picking up the phone when you'd rather not at that moment, giving a last Rolo without gritting your teeth, guiding a snail gently onto a leaf and then slowly relocating it rather than chucking it unceremoniously over the fence. Did you know that snails have a 4-mile homing device? It's entirely impossible to get them away. When the idea of right relation first crossed my path, I was struck by how radical it seemed, and I wondered why that was. I thought, where might this be less fluffy and heartwarming and more uncomfortable or complicated, and what resistance to it might we come up against in ourselves? One of the challenges, I think, of right relation is it might ask us to think beyond transaction. In Indigenous American botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, The Serviceberry, she compares market economy, the trading of commodities, with a gift economy. Gift economy is a system based on generosity and gratitude, modeled on a symbiotic relationship with the natural world. A tree produces berries, but in return it is given seed distribution, and it gives without condition. In a gift economy, there is no hoarding or withholding. There is giving where possible, there is taking when needed, there is sharing when there is abundance, there is gratitude for what is made available. There is no ownership nor debt. If I'm thinking transactionally, I might say, I'm only going to offer you something if it's clear what I get in return. And equally, I might feel reluctant to receive from others if I'm not sure what I can give back. But in a gift economy, offerings flow to where they are needed, and it's understood that what you need will flow to you, though maybe not from the place you gave to. For example, I might make dinner for another person when I'm able, and maybe another time someone else helps me put up a shelf or gives me a lift. Perhaps then, seeing resources as belonging to everyone and trusting that you'll be able to find what you need when you need it might make it easier to be generous with time, energy, or kindness, and be less calculating when asked for help or giving it. Perhaps also recognizing what you already have changes your relationship to giving and receiving. But what if in response to an opportunity to step in with generosity, you hold back? Being stuck in a particular role might hinder one's willingness to contribute. I am the youngest child in my family by 8 years, quite a long way. And the youngest child is often not given as much responsibility as those older. I grew up with the feeling nothing is my job because I'm the youngest. Recently, my older sister was in hospital, and I had the opportunity to support her, reassuring her when she was scared, finding things she needed, communicating on her behalf, checking in on her husband. One of the things she really appreciated was a package of long vet's plastic gloves to cover her cannula when she was washing. It was a crisis situation, not so much time to think, but on another level, I felt myself deciding to step in, regardless of how much or little she and I get on, or the incurrent stresses involved. If I had remained in my familiar position, I wouldn't have done any of this. But I saw an opportunity to redress the balance of a dynamic in which my sister would always give, advise, initiate, support, and others of us would be passive or only receive the benefit of her generosity without reciprocating. It didn't feel right or in right relation to let that imbalance continue, to not repay her efforts with presence and care. This wasn't a situation free of discomfort, but it was about deciding that something was important, more important than comfort, something coming back into line. Right relation, I think, asks us to act on purpose, with intention. I don't think it's easy to do this. What does it take to decide moment to moment how to move in the world? As a psychotherapist, I'm schooled in the notion that as well as being governed by survival, relationship, culture, law, pleasure, or satisfaction, to some degree, we are governed by our unconscious. Accepting that people are driven by unconscious forces can seem to some a very compassionate angle and to some an indulgent one. How many times have we heard some version of the phrase, "Oh, it's not their fault, it's how they were brought up"? A therapeutic approach would always want to uncover the reasons, however seemingly illogical, behind a person's behavior, and then encourage them to act more in the best interests of themselves and those around them. So this means both acknowledging each of us has ways of being we have practiced in order to manage in our lives, and also accepting our own agency. But this means accepting that no one else is going to come in and make those choices for us, take our risks, and protect us from disappointment. Maybe, though, the empowerment in choice is a worthwhile substitute for such a fantasy, and can be as much of a mode of expression as following the impulses of our moods, energy levels, changeable viewpoints, grudges, and disappointments. Recently, I was speaking to a friend about the choice to care for or not to care for one's frail parents. She had decided that right now, she wouldn't choose to care for her mother because of many years of feeling suffocated by her. Perhaps she imagined being an ineffective or cruel carer because of the history. I thought about this and wondered whether I might feel the same way if I were in her shoes. I'm trying to say, I don't think that right relation is a one-way or one-size-fits-all. But it did make me think about how right relation might be hindered by a resistance to the idea of duty. Perhaps the association of duty with entrapment. Perhaps we might think that duty involves a total surrender of all our personal wishes, dreams, or choices. I remember that when my grandmother had dementia in the 1990s, my mother traveled several hours to see her, sometimes several times a week. My grandmother had not treated my mother well, compromised as she was by her own mental health issues and lack of resources. Some would say, "You don't have to do that." But she chose to, and I believe she did so not to signal virtue, but because she thought it was the right thing to do. So what if right relation contains within it a kind of duty that still enables us to be separate, to have agency, and to act towards others with respect, kindness, and generosity? Maybe there's an opportunity within it to find personal meaning in doing what seems right. So far, my emphasis has been on finding ways to step forward when we might be tempted not to. But acting in right relation also means acknowledging one's limits. We only have so much time, energy, capacity, skill, or financial resources. And sometimes you're not going to be able to meet the person who wants something from you with a yes. And a dishonest yes, I think, is worse than a no. It's a waste of time, energy, and hope for all involved. Whatever the type of relationship, no one likes to be strung along or blindsided. So I have learned that sometimes right relation requires you to tolerate being the bad guy, to tolerate being the bearer of disappointment in the service of honesty and respect for the other, and perhaps we can release the other to find what they want elsewhere. In Raymond Antrobus's poem, O Separation, he talks about the process of separating from his wife, and the last lines say, "The sun kept breaking light through the glistening gaps of the bare branches that sent the boy in me one way and the man the other." What I love so much about this poem is that these lines remind me that doing the painful but accepting thing can offer growth. I think that on some quiet level, each act of integrity offers an opportunity to grow, to build self-respect, even if you are the only witness. Deciding to act in right relation has the potential to be addictive. Imagine finally giving back that borrowed book, sending that long overdue text, pruning the rose bush, gathering the courage to say sorry, choosing kindness over taking out the day on your partner. Imagine the relief when the looming thought no longer hums, distracting in the back of your mind. Like starting to clear out dusty corners of a home, once you start, you might see other areas that need attention. Where else are there cracks, places to heal, hatchets to bury, places to let go? Who else can one be other than who we've been so many times before? And what might the world look like with a clear head and a clean heart? Time for one last hymn now. It's on your hymn sheets. We belong to one another.
Just a few announcements then. Thanks to Jasmine for her wonderful reflection and for suggesting today's theme. Thanks to Ramona for tech hosting and Lachlan for co-hosting online. Thanks to Abby and Andrew for lovely music and Benj for supporting our singing. Thanks to Sonya for reading, John for greeting, and I see Pat and Anna are already heading to the kitchen to put the kettle on. We've got loads of cake today if you're staying here in person. Chocolate beer cake, a classic Delia Smith recipe from the 1970s. Or lemon and ginger, or some pear and ginger left over from France. Oh, there might even be a slice of pina colada cake left from last week. Help us eat it. If you're online, stay for a chat with Lachlan if you can. After your tea and cake, please come back in here to have a sing with Margaret. Her Finding Your Voice class is free of charge and she can help anyone make a better sound. That's at 12:30 back in here. Tonight we've got the Better World Book Club when we're talking about what we don't talk about when we talk about fat by Aubrey Gordon. If you're expecting to come to that and haven't yet had the link, let me know. Next month we are reading Afropean, Notes from Black Europe by Johnny Pitts. We've got a few copies of that to lend out. If you take one, just let me know so I know who's borrowed those. Sonya will be here with her near class Friday lunchtime. Have a word with Sonya if you want to know more about that holistic movement. On Friday at 7, we've got the Heart and Soul Contemplative Spiritual Gathering, and this week's theme is the gift of tears. Email me if you want the link to join. Next Sunday, there's going to be another new addition to the programme. After the service at 1, we'll have our first Each Child Alike quilting session. That's a memorial project to honour the children who have been killed in Gaza. It's a project that Patricia has been particularly involved in. I think Marianne knows some stuff about it as well. Maybe have a chat with Marianne if you want to know more. Apparently, you don't need any special skill to take part, and all the materials will be provided. And further ahead, we've got a spring walk to Rainham Marshes on Thursday, the 12th of March. And we've got an Equinox Labyrinth mini retreat on Sunday the 22nd. Let me know if you want to sign up for either of those. And next Sunday, we'll be back here at 11 for a service on our creative powers. And that's going to be an interactive service with an invitation to speak off the cuff about things we have created, be they visual art, music, written word, performance, gardens, buildings, events or happenings. If you've got something suitable for a show and tell and you want to send me a photo in advance, please do. I'm not looking for anyone to speak at length. I'm not looking for you to write in advance. It's just like Joys and Concerns. Stand up and speak about something you've created to make the world better or more beautiful. I encourage you to very briefly blow your own trumpet. Not that I think we've got any trumpeters. Details of all this is on the back of your order of service, in the Friday email. We've got Life Beyond Sunday morning, so do what you can to look out for each other and nurture those supportive connections. So just time for our closing words and closing music. As we end our time together today in spiritual community, may we depart this sacred space knowing that blessings shall follow us all the days of our lives. If we live in the right way of right relationship and return to it over and over, if we extend grace and forgiveness to ourselves and to others, if we behold mercy as a spiritual superpower, and if we emanate the greater love that holds us close, may our lives radiate the blessings from all we've been given. May kindness and compassion fall gently from us. May there be peace in the world, and may it begin again with us. Amen.